Hi, friends. I wanted to post a second reading of the book we read in library this week, Magic Ramen, the story of Momofuku Ando and his instant ramen noodle soup that he invented. I know a lot of people like this book, and it can be fun to listen to a book more than once and think about it a little bit more deeply. So, with that said, here are the things that you needed to know. We needed to know two important words that are going to play an important role in the story and in Ando's invention. The first word to know is war, which is a situation or period of fighting between countries or groups of people. War usually involves weapons, the military, and soldiers. Now, the setting of today's book is Osaka, Japan, after World War II. And if we look closely at this picture of the city, we can tell that there has been fighting and war here. Do you notice how all the buildings are broken? That's because Osaka, Japan was bombed during World War II. And that plays a very important role in the why Ando wants to create ramen for the hungry people there after the war. The second word you need to know is tempura. This plays an equally important role in Ando's idea for this invention. It is a Japanese dish of fish, shellfish, or vegetables that have been fried in a batter. All right, so with war and tempura in our minds and our thinking eyes on, here is Magic Ramen, the story of Momofuku Ando by Andrea Wang and Kana Urbanowitz. And here's the city. It looks a lot like the picture I just showed you, right? See all these broken buildings down here? Let's go in for a closer look. And pay close attention to this fellow down here. Momofuku Ando picked his way through the rubble on his way home from work. Even though World War II had ended just over a year ago, much of Osaka, Japan still lay in ruins. And we can see the homes and businesses are broken and that people have rebuilt using items that they can find. Now, across the street, a long line of people wound down the sidewalk. And if we look off into the dark, we can see that line goes way back. It was winter, and they shivered in their ragged clothes. What were they waiting for? Ando wondered. At the head of the line, billows of steam rose up from a shack. Inside, a man was selling ramen noodle soup. Bad harvests, rationing, and the war had made food very scarce. The poor ate grass and tree bark to survive. Orphans scrounged through the garbage for something to eat. And those lucky enough to have some money waited for hours and paid outrageous prices for a meager bowl of ramen. So we can see this family here. They've waited in line for hours. They have paid a whole lot of money for this very small bowl of ramen that they're going to have to share together. Now, remember this scene and look at how it's impacting Ando here. He never ever forgets this his whole life, and it motivates everything he does. Ando went home, but he couldn't forget the hungry people. The world is peaceful only when everyone has enough to eat, he realized. And Ando decided that food would be his life's work. He started a business making salt. He caught and dried fish. He created nutritious food for people who were sick. And with every new product, every new job, every new business, Ando thought about the line of starving people. He thought about them for over 10 years. Then one of Ando's business deals ended badly. He was penniless. And once again, Ando remembered the thin and hungry people. Wouldn't it be wonderful, he thought, if whole families could have noodles whenever they wanted? No more waiting in line in the cold. No more high prices. No more empty stomachs. He dreamed about a new kind of ramen. His ramen wouldn't be like other noodles. It would be more nutritious. In a shed in his backyard, Ando mixed flour and salt and water together. He added eggs and powdered milk. He even added spinach because he wanted this to be nutritious, right? But nothing worked. The noodles were too crumbly or too sticky or too lumpy. But Ando did not give up. Ando kept experimenting with different ingredients. One day he cranked the handle of his noodle making machine and tested the noodles that came out. They didn't crumble, stick, or lump. It was just the right mix of ingredients. And Ando realized the key to the preparation of food is balance. And this machine reminds me a lot of the Fantastic Noodler, except it's a real life machine. And there's something else that reminds me of Noodlefant down here. These were those special Japanese clogs she brought back for everyone, called geta. Now, he still had a problem. He had noodles, but what was ramen without soup? Ando remembered the cold and hungry people. Chicken soup warmed up their cold bodies, but it took hours to make. His ramen would be tasty and easy to cook. The simple addition of hot water would release the flavor from the noodles and turn it into hot chicken soup. But look how hard Ando is thinking here. He knows that he wants to just add water and it makes it taste like soup. But how to make the water taste like soup? That is trickier. Ando kept experimenting. He used chicken soup to make the noodle dough. He brushed seasonings over the noodles. He dipped the noodles in soup. But once again, nothing worked. The noodles were too brittle, or too soft, or too soggy. And no one likes a soggy noodle, no. But did Ando give up? No. Ando kept experimenting with different methods. One day, he sprinkled noodles with soup from a watering can. There is his watering can full of soup. He sprinkled the noodles with soup from the watering can, then tossed and separated them. The noodles soaked up the soup and then dried. It was just the right procedure. He added hot water to the dried noodles and stirred. Now, the water tasted like soup, like onions and chicken and mushrooms and garlic, because it had dried on there. But he still has a problem. Yeah, the noodles were still too tough. The hot water hadn't cooked them. The noodles still had to be cooked on a stove. And Ando remembered again the tired and hungry people. He wanted his ramen to be fast and convenient. It could be made with hot water in only a few minutes. People should be able to make it anywhere, anytime, said Ando. Day after day, Ando experimented. And night after night, he failed. Month after month, he kept trying, but nothing worked. Look, it looks like he's frustrated here, but we know Ando is not the kind of person that gives up, right? That's just not in his character. One night, Ando watched his wife, Masako, fry tempura. She coated the vegetables and seafood in batter and then dropped them into the hot oil. The water in the batter evaporated and left tiny holes in the now crunchy coating. He stared at the tempura. The batter was made from flour and water, just like his noodles. Yatta! He cried. That's it! And he raced on his geta to his shed and threw some noodles in the pot of hot oil. They sizzled and popped and crisped. Ando scooped the fried noodles out of the oil and into a bowl. He added hot water and waited. The water seeped into the tiny holes and softened the noodles. It's cooking them because there are tiny holes in there from being fried. Right now, look here. 2 minutes later, he plunged a pair of chopsticks into the bowl. He stirred and slurped. The noodles were tender and chewy. They floated in a bowl of hot and tasty soup. After a year of trying, Ando had finally done it. He had invented instant ramen. And here is the beautiful moment where he's finally, after all that work, figured it out. And it looks like it's maybe in the spring when all the cherry blossoms in Japan are falling all around him. Well, Ando worked hard to make enough instant ramen to sell. The whole family pitched in. Masako, his wife, Suma, Koki, and even little Akimi. Ando gave demonstrations. He poured hot water. He waited 2 minutes. Mahao no ramen, the astonished customers exclaimed. Magic ramen. Perfectly cooked in 2 minutes instead of 2 hours, right? This was something that took a long time to make, and now, like magic, it's done in 2 minutes. And soon, everyone was eating Ando's ramen. Poor people, because it didn't cost very much money at all. And even today, ramen costs 25 cents for a pack. Children loved it. Busy workers ate it because it was ready in 2 minutes. And even royalty enjoyed the new magic ramen that Ando made. Ando's ramen was nutritious, tasty, and convenient. Thin, cold, tired, and hungry people ate it, and they felt better. Ando smiled. Peace follows from a full stomach, he said. Ever since, Momofuku Ando and his backyard invention have fostered peace, one bowl of noodles at a time. And friends, that is the end of Magic Ramen. Now, I have a couple deep thinker questions for you if you want to think a little bit more about this story. The first one is, I want you to think about what motivates Ando, even when it's not going very well, even when the noodles are mushy and failing for the 10th time. What does he keep thinking about over and over and over again that motivates him to keep trying? It was something that happened at the beginning of the book that he saw and that really changed him. That's right. Yeah. It is all those tired, poor, and hungry people that need something to eat. And that leads me to the next question, and this is a little bit tougher. Ando says the world is peaceful only when everyone has enough to eat. Why does he say that? And what do you think that means? The world is peaceful only when everyone has enough to eat. All right, think about it, friends. I'll be back next week with another great story for you, and I hope you enjoyed listening to that story a second time. Bye.